and I said he was lazy. You don't know me. You don't know my history. You don't know my work ethic. So basically, you were using a broad generality and you're being lazy.
Well, Richard Jefferson recently fell out of the good graces of Shannon Sharpe on FS1. It all started when Richard Jefferson was doing a podcast with Michelle Beadle entitled What Did I Miss? And this comment from RJ was taken out of context. Richard said, you need them, speaking on guys like Stephen A. and Skip Bayless. He said, you need them because I don't want to talk about football. That issue's hard. They have to talk about everything, so they have to use generalities. I couldn't do Stephen A.'s job. I couldn't do Skip's job. I couldn't do that. I say I couldn't do it as I don't want to. Looks like Shannon Sharpe saw a little bit of what Richard Jefferson had to say and not the whole context of the conversation, and went on FS1's Undisputed, his show, and said this: you're being lazy, Richard. You should want to go out and learn more about football. I wanted to learn more about basketball, so I watch intently every single game so I can talk about football, I can talk about basketball, I can talk about Juneteenth, I can talk about George Floyd, because I read. I've immersed myself in that, and I feel very comfortable when I sit out here and that camera's on me. I feel very confident that I'm talking with a pretty good degree of certainty. I feel very confident in what I'm saying. Richard Jefferson had this to say in response to Shannon.
Okay, let's start with this. As long as you're on God's green earth, Shannon Sharpe, don't you ever refer to me as lazy. Don't you ever refer to my approach as lazy. It couldn't be any further from the truth. I said that people on those shows oftentimes talk in broad generalities because they're covering so many sports. So what did he do to argue back with me? He used a broad generality. He said that I'm being lazy. There's not a person in this industry since I have retired that would ever refer to my work ethic as being lazy. So as long as you live, don't ever do that again, or this conversation is going to be much different. Secondly, so people need to understand that in these industries, there are certain specialists that talk about all the different sports. Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, Stephen A., Max Kellerman, Shannon Sharpe. These guys talk about all sports. Instead, what I decided to do is go call games, like this year, called playoff games for the Nets. Then I ended up calling playoff games for ESPN. And then also, what did I do? Then I was traveling on the road for the Eastern Conference Finals and then the NBA Finals. And what did I do? I went home for 3 days. After I was home for 3 days, what do I do? Now I'm in New York getting ready for the draft. After the draft, I go home and we get ready for our multi-day free agency special. And then after that, what do? I get about 4 days off. And then what I get ready for? I get ready for Summer League, which I'll be at for 2.5 weeks. Still want to reference my approach as being lazy, OG? And lastly, in that clip, he talks about he is well-read on social issues, and that allows him to sit in that chair, which might imply that somebody might not want to do that work to sit in that chair. Well, let me tell you a little bit about my history, OG. So when my mom moved out of South Central LA, raising 3 boys in probably the worst time in the 80s, she moved to Phoenix and went back and started getting her education. And so then my mom taught African-American studies at Arizona State. My mom was a part of the Black Student Union there. And on top of it, when I was 14 years old, my mom got back from Kenya and doing missionary work about 3 days before the American embassy got bombed over there. So every day, at the breakfast table, at the dinner table, all the time, social issues, world issues were taught in my home, and I am one of the lucky ones. So I don't sit out here and talk and pat on my back, but I don't think that you should do that in reference to somebody else, because you know why? You don't know me. You don't know my history. You don't know my work ethic. So basically, you were using a broad generality and you're being lazy.
It was brought to my attention that Richard Jefferson responded to something that I said last week or early this week when he was saying that he only wanted to talk about basketball. And I said he was lazy. Richard Jefferson is not lazy. I was lazy in my assessment of what Richard Jefferson said. Richard played 17, 18 seasons in the NBA. He played at a very high level. You don't play that length of time and be lazy. I want to apologize. I come to you as a man, Rich, and apologize to you for my take on what you said. We have 2 very different jobs. Richard Jefferson on NBA Today, he does a very good job of talking about the NBA. Having played in the NBA for the length of time, you can tell that he's knowledgeable, but he also studies, he prepares. I have to have a general knowledge of a lot of different topics. College football, NFL football, the Westminster Dog Show, baseball, track and field, social issues, basketball, college basketball. So my job is a lot different than what Richard Jefferson's job is. Instead of saying that my job is different, I use the term that I should never use to describe Richard Jefferson, which is lazy, because he's anything but lazy. So I don't have a problem in Richard Jefferson responding to what I said, although I did not hear what he said. Richard and I do not have a beef. There is nothing going on, and this is my last time addressing this issue. I want to apologize to you, Rich, for what I said, and if you're ever in LA, let's break bread.
Yeah, I love that Shannon Sharpe came back and walked his comments back. Again, clearly he took what Richard Jefferson said out of context. I think what Richard was just saying is, yo, I work hard at what I do. I found my place in media. I could come on ESPN programming a few times throughout the week. I get to call games. And Richard Jefferson has been calling Nets games for years, by the way. I want to give that man credit for that. He does a pretty good job. I actually like Richard Jefferson a lot in that role calling games. I actually think he's going to be one of the great faces for ESPN going forward. He has something to say. That's what I like about him. He's saying something. And a lot of guys on many different networks don't have anything to say. They want to just cater to athletes. I like the new wave of Kendrick Perkins and Richard Jefferson. They got something to say, period. I don't care what they say. I didn't need to know you have something to say. Just don't bore me with the same JJ Redick quotes about nothing. Every time you find a way to defend an athlete, well, sometimes athletes don't need defending. They need correcting. They need to be called out, okay? I get it. You want to be the voice for the athletes. I get it. But sometimes people are just wrong. And guys like JJ Redick, CJ McCollum, they have nothing to say. They're just literally up there collecting a paycheck. I'm not mad at them. They have nothing to say. I like what Richard Jefferson and Kendrick Perkins do. I like that they have something to bring to the table, whether NBA athletes agree or disagree with them. I like that Richard Jefferson doesn't mind being somewhat critical of LeBron, and then he'll go be in Kevin Love's wedding alongside LeBron James. I love that. Like, yo, I got an opinion. I got a job. If you don't like me, it is what it is, but I still got to do my job. Love that about Richard Jefferson. I also love the fact that Shannon Sharpe walked back his comments because he was not well informed. Literally, Richard Jefferson said it. Like, yo, you were lazy at your job that day, Shannon. I get what Shannon was trying to say. I watched Shannon Sharpe, a lot of the clips from Undisputed alongside Skip Bayless, though. Oftentimes, Shannon Sharpe talks for Instagram videos and Twitter videos. I'm telling you, trust me, I worked on debate shows. I worked with Skip at ESPN as an intern. Oftentimes, Shannon Sharpe talks to make social media, to have some popping quotes, to have popping videos on Twitter. You can tell. If you know this stuff like I do, you can tell. And sometimes they can put your foot in your mouth. When you're speaking for a greater or bigger cause, when you're speaking to reach millions of people, which a lot of Shannon Sharpe's videos are going to do, he's phenomenal at branding, incredible at branding, one of the best I've ever seen. Oftentimes, when you speak in generalities like you did, Shannon, ironically what you said about RJ, then sometimes your words and you can sometimes be misconstrued. So I think there was all one big understanding. I love that Shannon apologized for his comments, walked him back. And let me be fair, and let me give Shannon some props here. I've watched debate television a long time. I'm a sports journalist. I've studied this stuff. We've never seen a Shannon Sharpe. Never seen a Shannon Sharpe. And to be real with you guys, I love what a lot of these talents are doing, a lot of these athletes are doing. Maybe Draymond Green can be it. But Draymond's going to have to be more critical of some of his peers as well. Shannon Sharpe ain't afraid to be critical of guys that he played with, played against, guys that he's mentored, younger athletes. He ain't afraid at all. He's witty. He's got all the sayings from his grandma and his grandpa that one could think of. He is the best former athlete turned debate style analyst, whatever you want to call him. He's giving his commentary day in on a debate show setting, whatever you want to coin that term as. He is the best we've ever seen that. And maybe Richard doesn't want to be the guy that knows a little bit about everything. Maybe he wants to be a guy that focuses in on the NBA and focuses on that position of calling games, because that does take a great level of detail that I'm sure Shannon doesn't even know about games night in, night out, about how much, what a guy's shooting from the field in the last 8 games, what he does on the road in Washington on a Thursday night in the middle of the storm in January. Like, those are certain things that you expect an in-game analyst to know. And with Shannon, with what he's doing day in, day out, he doesn't need to know those type of depths. He gets with his research team, and they generalize stuff because they're reaching millions and millions of people that are not just fans of one sport. You don't need to be that direct when you're reaching that type of audience. If I'm watching a basketball game, a game that Richard Jefferson is covering, I want inside, in-depth knowledge about that game that only Richard Jefferson and the play-by-play guy can get, which means he needs to be focused in on one sport more, on one specific game more than Shannon, which, like Richard said, has to speak in generalities because he needs to be well-versed in a ton of different stuff.